Hey everyone, this is Lomi, and today I'm making the last piece of the outfit I decided on for Kid Von. He's getting a little vest with pockets to wear over his nice shirt, and you can get the pattern from my site's free pattern archive linked in the video description. I start with the lining, putting the front and back pieces together at the shoulder, and then sewing the shoulder seam. I've made vests before, but not with pockets like this, so I figured it would be fun to share. After the lining, the outer shell pieces go together the same way, just sewing the shoulder seams for now. Make sure when sewing your outer shell that you sew the fabric with the right sides together. Once the shoulder seams are all done, I finger press all the seams open on both parts. You can use an iron and do it the proper way, but I'm lazy and these are small, and finger pressing is good enough for this step. I add my pockets next because now is the easiest time to add them, when the front is still flat. But if you're using a thick fabric, you might want to wait until the lining is partially attached so that it's easier to turn the garment right side out. I start by finishing the top edge of the pockets with a zigzag stitch. Then the top edge gets folded down by about 1/4 inch and sewn in place with a regular straight stitch. But if you want to get fancy, you could use a decorative stitch for this too. I pick placement, then fold the side and bottom edges of the pocket in by 1/4 inch and pin them down. Placing the pockets is always a little tricky, so be sure to take your time. I put mine directly up from the point at the bottom of the vest and carefully use the pins that were holding the sides to hold the folded pocket against the front of the vest. The other goes on in the same way. Be sure to place them levelly from one side to the other, and be sure they're folded at the same size too. When placing your pockets, make sure to remember there will be a 1/4 inch seam allowance around the raw edges of the vest front, so it will be smaller than what you're looking at. Give plenty of space for those seams. Once you're happy with the size and placement, the pockets can be sewn down. Start at one side, backstitch, go around the bottom, and up the other side, leaving the finished top edge open. Backstitch at the end as well so the pockets won't pull loose. Sew as close to the edge of the pockets as you can. This part takes practice, so go as slow as you need. If you'd be more comfortable doing this step by hand, that's totally valid, so just do what feels right. With both pockets sewn on, we can move on to connecting the lining and the outer shell. They should go together with the right sides together, making sure the shoulder seams are laying open flat. This gets sewn in one long seam starting at the bottom edge of the front opening, going up and around the neck and down the other side to the bottom edge again. I trim the corners of this seam and snip into the fabric to allow it to lay smoothly when turned right side out. Depending on how thick your fabric is, you may wish to trim the seam allowances closer to your stitching so it will be easier to turn the garment right side out. Next, I pin around the armholes and sew around those, leaving the sides of the vest open. Both armholes get sewn. Like with the neck hole, I snip into these curves, but you might want to trim these allowances too. Now the vest can be turned right side out. I've found that my strap turner works really well for this. It slides between the layers of fabric from the back through the shoulder and connects to the seam allowance of the front. I started to pull before I realized I should show this with a regular safety pin too, since most people should have one and can use it to turn the garment the same way. You'd start by connecting the pin to the seam allowance in the front, then fold the fabric to the inside so the pin can slide through the shoulder between layers of fabric. When it comes through to the back, you can grab it and pull. Once the vest is right side out, you can close the sides under the arm by folding the right sides together. Line up the outer shell with itself and the lining with itself and pin it in place. This can be closed with one seam, finishing the side, so both sides shut the same way. Now the bottom edge can be closed. Fold the vest up over itself so you can line up the bottom edges of the vest and lining with all the upper parts gathered inside and pin it in place. We'll want to leave a gap at the bottom back of the vest when sewing, so start at the front edge and sew toward the middle. Stop before you reach the center, then move ahead to resume sewing maybe an inch farther up, so there's a gap of at least an inch. I trim the corners of the fabric so it'll lay nicely when turned. Then, using the gap left in the bottom edge, I snag one of the shoulder straps and pull the whole thing right side out again. I use a wooden skewer to help make sure the corners are all completely turned, and I pin the gap at the bottom closed with the raw edges folded neatly to the inside. Once everything lays nicely, I finish the remaining hole by top stitching around the edge of the vest. I go all the way around the outer edge, but you could do just the back, just the bottom, or the whole thing, including going around the armholes, which I don't do on this one. You also have the option of using decorative stitches or accent thread here to make it more visually interesting. If your fabric isn't laying well enough for you to top stitch, you might want to press the garment first, but finger pressing is enough for mine to do what I need. Now the sewing is complete and the garment can be finished however you please, with buttons or snaps or hooks on the front. I need to press mine, but I'm going to leave it without any fastenings since it's just something I want him to have layered over the rest of his clothes. And that's all for today. If you enjoyed this, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any future sewing patterns and tutorials. Thanks for watching. Bye.